जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अस्तोत्र सत अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ISKCON फाउंडर आचार्य BBT फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25. Today we have text 36. Tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra. vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ. hṛtātmano hṛta-prāṇāṁś bhaktir. anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra. vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ. hṛtātmano hṛta-prāṇāṁś bhaktir. anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra. vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ hṛtātmano hṛta-prāṇāṁś bhaktir anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. Please chant. tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ hṛta-prāṇāṁś bhaktir tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ hṛtātmano hṛta-prāṇāṁś bhaktir anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. tair darśanīyāvayavair udāra vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ hṛtātmano anicchato Mataji's. vilāsa-hāsekṣita-vāma-sūktaiḥ hṛtātmano anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. hṛtātmano anicchato me gatim aṇvīṁ prayuṅkte. tair by those forms, darśanīya, charming, avayavaiḥ, whose limbs, udāra, exalted, vilāsa, pastimes, hāsa, smiling, īkṣita, glances, vāma, pleasing, sūktaiḥ, whose delightful words, hṛta, captivated, ātmanaḥ, their minds, hṛta, captivated, prāṇān, their senses, cha, and bhaktiḥ, devotional service, anicchatāḥ, unwilling, may, my, gatim, abode, aṇvīṁ, subtle, prayuṅkte, secures. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing His very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor. Purport. There are three divisions of devotees: first class, second class, and third class. Even the third class devotees are liberated souls. It is explained in this verse that although they do not have knowledge, simply by seeing the beautiful decoration of the deity in the temple, the devotees become absorbed in thought of him and lose all other consciousness. Simply by fixing oneself in Krishna consciousness, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord, one is imperceptibly liberated. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Simply by discharging uncontaminated devotional service as prescribed in the scriptures, one becomes equal to Brahman. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. This means that the living entity in his original state is Brahman, because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman. But simply because of his forgetfulness of his real nature as an eternal servitor of the Lord, he is overwhelmed and captivated by Maya. His forgetfulness of his real constitutional position is Maya. Otherwise, he is eternally Brahman. When one is trained to become conscious of his position, he understands that he is the servitor of the Lord. Brahman refers to a state of self-realization. Even third-class devotee who is not advanced in knowledge of the absolute truth, but simply offers obeisances with great devotion, thinks of the Lord, sees the Lord in the temple, and brings forth flowers and fruits to offer to the deity, becomes imperceptibly liberated. I don't know how many people understand this or think about it when they just randomly come to the temple and offer these things. Shraddhayanvita, with great devotion, the devotees offer worshipful respects and paraphernalia to the deity. The deities of Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi and Narayan, and Ram and Sita are very attractive to devotees, so much so that when they see the statue decorated in the temple of the Lord, they become fully absorbed in thought of the Lord. That is the state of liberation. In other words, it is confirmed herewith that even a third-class devotee is in the transcendental position above those who are trying for liberation by speculation or by other methods. Even great personalities like Sukadeva Goswami and the four Kumaras were attracted by the beauty of the deities in the temple, by the decorations and by the aroma of tulsi offered to the Lord, and they became devotees. Even though they were in the liberated state, instead of remaining impersonalists, they were attracted by the beauty of the Lord and became devotees. Here the word vilas is very important. Vilas refers to the activities or pastimes of the Lord. It is a prescribed duty in the temple worship that not only should one visit the temple to see the deity nicely decorated, but at the same time he should hear the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or some similar literature which is regularly recited in the temple. It is the system in Vrindavan that in every temple there is recitation of the Shastras. Even third-class devotees who have no literary knowledge or no time to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita get the opportunity to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. In this way, their minds may remain always absorbed in the thought of the Lord, His form, His activities, and His transcendental nature. This state of Krishna consciousness is a liberated stage. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended 5 important processes in the discharge of devotional service. 1. To chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 2. To associate with devotees and serve them as far as possible. 3. To hear Srimad Bhagavatam. 4. To see the decorated temple and the deity, and if possible, 5. To live in a place like Vrindavan or Mathura. These 5 items alone can help a devotee achieve the highest perfectional stage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita and here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that third-class devotees can also imperceptibly achieve liberation is accepted in all Vedic literatures. Very clear, no doubts. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. So after a powerful festival of Radha Ashtami, now we are hearing another powerful verse from Srila Prabhupada, purport. And he's emphasizing this point of just by being engaged in devotional service, one is imperceptibly liberated. So there are a few points he mentions in this purport. I don't know if we will be able to cover all of them, but I will try my best. Starting with the point of liberation, it says liberation in the second canto actually is mentioned. Mukti hitva anyatha rupam surupena vyavasthitihi. Means liberation means when one is situated in one's original constitutional position, where there is a complete understanding of one being a servant of the Lord. Mame vamsa jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. We are eternally apart. We are never the whole. We are eternally apart. That is the position of a living entity. But in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions that there are 2 types of living entities, Nitya Baddhas and Nitya Muktas. Means Nitya Muktas are those who are pure devotees of the Lord. They are ever liberated souls. They are never in a conditional state of consciousness. But Nitya Baddhas they are eternally in conditioned state of consciousness. Of course, eternally it means that for a long, long period of time. And then he gives some hope. He explains that by engaging in devotional service, one can become free from this conditioned state of consciousness. I'll read a couple of lines from that purport because it's very relevant and it'll help us get a bit more deeper understanding on this. So let's see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. The ever-conditioned souls are apt to develop a mentality of lording over the material nature. And therefore, the material cosmic creation is manifested to give the ever-conditioned souls two kinds of facilities. One facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lord it over the cosmic manifestation. And the other facility gives the conditioned soul a chance to come back to Godhead. So, after the winding up of the cosmic manifestation, most of the conditioned souls merge into the existence of the Mahavishnu, personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber. I'm sure many people would like that these days, especially many yogis, to be created again in the next creation. But some of the conditioned souls, okay, this is important point he's mentioning, who follow the transcendental sound in the form of Vedic literatures and are thus able to go back to Godhead, attain spiritual and original bodies after quitting the conditional gross and subtle material bodies. The material conditional bodies develop out of the living entities' forgetfulness of their relationship with Godhead. And during the course of the cosmic manifestation, the conditioned souls are given a chance to revive their original status of life with the help of revealed scriptures, so mercifully compiled by the Lord in his different incarnations. So here Srila Prabhupada is stating very clearly, and this is also for all of us, reading or hearing of such transcendental literatures helps one become liberated even in the conditional state of material existence. That's why it's very important for us to read these purports. All the Vedic literatures aim at devotional service to the personality of Godhead, and as soon as one is fixed upon this point, he at once becomes liberated from conditional life. The material gross and subtle forms are simply due to the conditioned soul's ignorance, and as soon as he is fixed in the devotional service of the Lord, he becomes eligible to be freed from the conditioned state. So there are many verses like this we can read, I'm sure. But it helps us get a bit more understanding on this point. Now, it's talking about imperceptible liberation. In Nectar of Devotion, it's the characteristics of devotional service are mentioned, and they are 6, as stated by Srila Rupa Goswami. I'll just mention those. Kleshagani, which means it frees us from all kinds of material suffering. And Shubhada, it creates all auspiciousness, brings lots of auspiciousness in the life of a devotee practicing devotional service. So these two aspects one can attain in sadhana state, in the sadhana stage of bhakti practice. So the sadhakas, we can experience this, and I'm sure many of us have experienced these things to different degrees. And then it says, moksha lagu takrit, it derides even the conception of liberation, and sudur labha, rarely achieved. So these two stages one can experience when one gets to bhava stage. And after that is Chandrananda Visheshatma and Sri Krishna Akarshani. So these two states, they are experienced by someone who is in the prema bhav, who has attained pure Krishna prema. Only that kind of devotee can experience these two stages. And actually that's in this stage only one is completely freed from any kind of material contamination. Because we can remember Bharat Maharaj, a great example. He was already on bhava stage, but he was still distracted. So one actually has to come to prema to become completely free from any kind of risks of being distracted from devotional service, pure devotional service. Okay, so this point Srila Prabhupada is highlighting again and again, the third class devotees. So there are three different kinds of devotees that are mentioned in the Shastras. All of us know Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttama. So in Kanishta stage, like how it's described in the purport here, they only have attraction to the deity. They come to the temple, they offer some things, they bow down, and then they say whatever, they ask for whatever they want to ask, and then they go back. This is like a good start, but this is not it. One can progress from this and get to more higher levels. And by highlighting this again and again, Srila Prabhupada is encouraging us to not just be at this stage. Of course, at New Dwarka, we don't have this problem. I've been to some temples, there's people don't even come to see the deity. So here we don't have that problem, but we can always do better. We can go to higher levels of bhakti practice. And in one of the purports is explaining that the Madhyama Adhikari, he has knowledge of the scriptures, but he may not be completely expert in it. He can be defeated by some other personalities at times who may be more learned. But this position is better than being on the Kanishta level, where you just want to worship the deity, live in the temple, do these kind of things. It's better than becoming more learned in the scriptures, understanding the tattva. And with that understanding, when we perform our devotional activities, then we will develop more attraction, more taste for it. Because the Kanishtas, they are mostly doing it out of duty consciousness, out of obligation. Because they are thinking, Lord is great, I'm small, I should go offer something, do some service. That's the understanding generally. And then when one comes to the Madhyama level, then that's when a person wants to know how the whole system works. And they want to start glorifying the Lord. They want to tell others. And then Madhyama, they are completely learned in all these. They are realized in these truths. In Uttama state, one is completely self-realized. So they are not doing it out of duty. They are doing it because they have natural love. And out of love, they are absorbed in doing those activities. And they cannot think of engaging in any kind of materialistic activities. Like we can see examples in our own short lives also. We see like some devotees, they find out about Krishna consciousness and maybe they start visiting the temple. Gradually they like it so much, they join the ashram, and then they like it so much they start doing a lot of service. And someone comes and tell, man, you are doing so much service. And the devotee is so enthusiastic. But that enthusiasm will continue if we nourish it with this spiritual intelligence, nourished by study of these shastras. Because if we don't study, that enthusiasm will be dampened after some time. Because what will happen if we don't study, we will not have a complete understanding of different aspects, and we might end up making some offenses, and that will pull us back. So therefore, the Lord Chaitanya, he mentioned 5 different aspects of devotional service here. And one of them is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Srila Prabhupada established this. Every morning there should be Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the evening there should be Bhagavad Gita. It's like the sandwich program. And one who is actually doing this, they can see for themselves how they have clear understanding about different aspects of bhakti, and they are not bewildered so easily. They may be, because we have so much other time outside hearing classes, and but there is a lot of protection by performing these activities, and one can experience these by performing them. It's not just by belief. So we have to practice them, so we can develop this clear understanding and actually become established in this Brahman consciousness. Because in chapter 14, Lord Krishna, he mentions Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So there in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the living entity is also Brahman. They are eternally Brahman. But because they are forgetting their eternal nature, so due to forgetfulness, we are caught up in material activities. And when we are caught up in material activities, what it does is it keeps us in material existence, because all those activities, all those karmas, they lead to creating certain kind of consciousness, materialistic consciousness, and which gradually leads to forming of another material body. And it's explained sometimes one may be going to lower species, and other times one may be going to higher species. But a devotee who is completely absorbed with no distractions, that devotee, he can go back to getting his original spiritual position, get his original spiritual body in the spiritual planets. I remember Srila Prabhupada, he giving example of Jayananda Prabhu when he left. So he said that he was doing so much devotional service, so he hoped he made it back to spiritual world. But then he also mentioned, even if there was anything lacking, he said, I'm sure he will make 2 higher planets, and from there gradually he will go back to spiritual world. We can see the example of Jaya and Vijaya. They had to go through 3 lifetimes to become completely liberated. So sometimes it may take more than 1 lifetime, but generally it's actually, Srila Prabhupada mentioned it so many times, if you are actually completely engaged in devotion service and with no distractions, no deviations, then one can make back to Godhead in 1 lifetime. He said, why wait for another lifetime? Because the risk is, like we already see, there is so many problems in society. It's already quite difficult at many places to practice bhakti. So many places people are doing it very secretly. I won't mention the names, I'm sure we all know the places. But even recently there was a lot of violence in Bangladesh, and so many devotees were affected. So this place is not like a very secure place. And Krishna himself, he told Uddhava, his dearest devotee, that don't try to stay here for too long. Just do this service for me, communicate my message to the devotees living in Badrika Ashram, because in his presence, Krishna wasn't able to visit that place and meet those devotees. So he was like, why don't you do this service for me? And in that way you will be in good association and you can remember me, and later you can come back to me. Because Uddhava was like, I want to go with you, I can't stay without you. And he was like, it's not going to work like this, you have to do some service for me. So Uddhava, it's mentioned, we remember starting of the 3rd canto, just when Vidura asked him about Krishna, he was completely in a different state of consciousness. He was absorbed in his spiritual consciousness and he lost all external consciousness. And then it took him some time to come back to respond to Vidura. So that's how we can see pure devotees, they are not at all influenced by external nature, material nature. They are completely absorbed in Krishna. But by hearing about these devotees, by hearing about their activities, we can take inspiration and we can engage in that way. Because the inspiration will get us engaged, and when we are actually performing devotion service, it will help us develop this taste. Like for chanting, many times we are chanting, we are sleeping holding our japa beads, we are dozing off. So we need to understand that maybe I'm tired, I need to take more rest. Because you cannot chant if you are tired, you will definitely doze off. So these are like practical things we have to understand. In further chapters, Kapila Muni, he will explain material nature, how it influences people. So we have to understand the both aspects, material and spiritual. Because if we only understand one, it's not complete understanding and we will have some difficulties. And therefore, we have to understand both and engage in these 5 aspects of devotional service, and we can be safe. And we can experience this imperceptible liberation. I'll just end with this one prayer. This is we may think it's a prayer by florist Sudama when Krishna entered Mathura. And before meeting this florist, Lord Krishna, he went to this washerman who was a devotee of Kamsa. And he was like chastising Krishna, how dare you ask for the king's clothing? Like, do you know what could be the consequences of such a request you made? Anyways, like Krishna sent him to where he needed to go, but then he met with florist Sudama. So we see like on the Radha Ashtami day, there was so much decoration, so many flower decoration. I see so many devotees for hours, they were engaged in making these garlands. And sometimes we may think, what's this devotee, just like making some garlands? No. It's like you can see now what happens. Because this Sudama, he only offered one garland to Krishna and Balaram. And let's hear what Krishna asked him. You can ask me whatever benediction we want. This was his prayer. Sopi vavre achalam bhaktim tasvin eva kilatmani tad bhakteshu cha soharadam bhuteshu cha dayam param. So this is the translation. I'll just read it. Sudama chose unshakable devotion for Krishna, the Supreme Soul of all existence, friendship with his devotees, and transcendental compassion for all living beings. But everyone wants some blessings, so let's see what Krishna blesses him with. So this is the blessing he received. Not only did Lord Krishna grant Sudama these benedictions, but he also awarded him strength, long life, fame, beauty, and ever-increasing prosperity for his family. That sounds pretty good. Then Krishna and his elder brother took their leave. So those who have families, they don't have to worry if they will lose a lot. You can read this pastime and you can take inspiration. You are never a loser when you are with Krishna. Neha bikrama naso asti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. What's the greatest fear? Can anyone say? What's the greatest fear? Yeah, greatest fear is losing this human form of existence, because only in human form one can understand these things, one can practice these things, one can engage in service. We don't see a lot of animals come here and do service. So in 11th canto in Uddhava Gita, actually Krishna tells him, human form is so valuable, it's actually so dear to me. So we can imagine how valuable asset we have and how much more we should utilize in service to the Lord of our hearts. So these were some thoughts. If it's already time, but if anyone has some burning realization or something they want to share, then you can do it really quick. Yes, Radha Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. You mentioned the three types of devotees. That what defines Madhya from Kanishta. You mentioned the command of the scriptures. And you mentioned that that's not the defining character, because Madhya can be defeated. It's not that he understands the tattva, but the result of that understanding is that he understands different relationships. He understands the innocent people versus the demoniac people,
yes,
and the devotees. He understands that with each person there's a specific correct type of behavior, relationship that needs to be performed. So relationship is what defines these the stages of devotees. The Kanishta Adhikari doesn't have any understanding of the relationships. He understands Krishna, I'm here for Krishna, I'm serving Krishna. Having that understanding between these three stages of devotees, we should also understand that you can have a pure devotee as a Kanishta Adhikari and a Madhyam Adhikari or a Uttama Adhikari. A pure, like Ananya Bhakti is irrespective of understanding of the Tattva. So in other words, an example, like a person can come to see Rukmini Dwarkadish, to bring Bhoga, and doesn't have the pollution of karma and gyan. In other words, this bhakti can be pure. And that's the bhakti that Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that is under liberated stage. So when pure bhakti is performed, the performer of that action is under liberated stage. That manifests, that can have outward manifestation in his behavior as Kanishta Adhikari or as an Uttama Adhikari. But pure bhakti is what liberates that person.
So I guess it's mentioned one can be pure as a Kanishta as long as they are following the process. If they are not pure. So one has to follow the devotional principles. If they are Kanishta, they are not following the principles, they are impure. So that's why following the practices with a pure intention is more important. But Anicchato Prabhu may want to add something.
That's why we have to take the definitions from the Shastra. Arshaya eva harye, puja kyaksharadayate. Natakchanyeshu bhakteshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. So a prakrita bhakta or a Kanishta Adhikari is one who, yes, wants to worship the Lord, but doesn't recognize can't distinguish amongst the other devotees. And therefore, we are being trained how to see distinctions and approach them differently. We know in the Nectar of Instruction that if one is chanting Hare Krishna but is not behaving properly, then you give at least mental respect. So the proper behavior has to be there. That's why you need a guru. It's not just, many people who have tradition, and not just in, India, but all over the world. People have tradition. They do things out of, because my grandmother did it, my father did it, and tradition, but they don't have any understanding, and therefore they commit offenses. They commit offenses. They take shalagram for breaking nuts, as we were hearing the other day. So you have to be trained. That's why guru is essential. A guru can transform a Kanishna Adhikari into a Madhyama Adhikari, into Uttama Adhikari, because the soul is by nature pure. It's not that you're taking a rock and trying to make it into a diamond. The diamond is there. It just has to be uncovered by the process of bhakti, trained by a spiritual master. Otherwise, if you remain on the Kanishna Adhikari, you're bound to commit offenses to the deity, to the devotees. And the deity may forgive you, but if you offend devotees, the devotee has to forgive you. But the Kanishna Adhikari doesn't understand that. They'll push a devotee out of the way to go and worship the deity. But the deity is not willing to accept such worship. You have to, as you stated, one of the 5 processes is to serve devotees to the best of your ability. You have to serve. Kanishna Adhikari doesn't see that. It's just me and the Lord, me and Krishna. And you're in my way, get out of my way, like that. That doesn't work.
Okay, thank you. I hope it is clear now. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.